The video recaps episode 13 of Married at First Sight, 2024, following a dramatic dinner party. The episode highlights key moments from the commitment ceremony, including Jack's heartfelt poem, Ellie and Ben's relationship struggles, Tori and Jack's doubts, and Lucinda and Timothy's issues. It also covers other couples' experiences, such as Cassandra and Tristan's intimacy challenges and Sara and Tim's heated argument. The article concludes with a glimpse of upcoming weddings and encourages readers to subscribe for more updates. Recap of MAFS 2024 Episode 13, One bride apologizes to the group during the commitment ceremony, while the groom is questioned about a horrifying comment. Everyone's ears are still ringing in the morning following an extremely chaotic Married at First Sight dinner party. Maybe it's because the sounds of Sara and Tim fighting are still audible to the brides and grooms. 9 now offers a free stream of every episode of Married at First Sight. However, when Jack begins to read Tori a love poem, which we have the impression ChatGPT penned, not him, we find ourselves wishing we could just sit back and listen to Sara and Tim insult each other at the dinner table once more. This is one you have to hear for yourself. Watch the video below to hear Jack's poem in all its splendor. We are eager to hear the experts' opinions after Intimacy Week, which was such a saucy time. Having said that, let's get the first pair seated for the commitment ceremony, which is sure to be a fascinating affair. Possibly of interest. Ben and Ellie. There's enough to discuss about Ellie and Ben. The mocking incident is the first, in which Ben mimicked his wife by speaking in a high-pitched voice. The pair has resolved to put that behind them after working things out. However, there was a subsequent event. He told me that I wasn't his match and I was absolutely horrified and just so hurt, Ellie says. Diner party brief number 2, Dom and Ella become enraged about Ben's harsh remarks to his spouse. Ben says that, it just came out, and he's not sure why he said Ellie wasn't his match. I was in this cloud of the pressure of this experiment and I thought, I just want to get out, Ben says with a sigh. Ben's biggest admirer Lauren rolls her eyes at his excuse, and his fellow actors sneer. John goes one better than others. He conducts a survey, asking participants if they are under any pressure during the experiment. Not surprisingly, everyone raises their hands. Ben appears defeated. He understands that everyone is under the same amount of stress, but as John says, you can't make fun of and act snarky around your partner. That is not possible. Ben concurs. I really regret it. He says, I would have done anything to avoid doing it. The other brides and grooms are unwilling to show Ben any clemency, despite his admission that the experiment strain has driven him to his breaking point. The first person to weigh in is Andrea, who claims that she has had partners who have treated her similarly to how Ben has treated Ellie. She attributes this to the groom's own insecurities. The next person to speak up is Loud Lotsa, and she still harbors resentment towards Ben for his lack of conviction about wanting children. Jaden even states that he doesn't buy it, that Ben is constantly changing his mind about having children. Ben believes that now is the ideal moment to share with everyone about his epiphany from earlier in the week, as no one seems to be really doubting his sincere wish to become a father. Do you recall the time he realized he was ready to become a father when he heard his niece and nephew sobbing and screaming over the phone? But Ellie wants to stay, so she's prepared to set this week behind her and start over. Ben has a small more note put on his card, and so does he. Stay, and I do want to have kids in the future. And since it's written there in black and white, it must be true. Ellie, be sure to get a photocopy for yourself. Jack and Tori. We believe Tori and Jack have accidentally fallen into a throuple with Timothy because he always seems to be the one talking while they're on the sofa, even though it's their time to reflect on the last week. Tim says, I'm just not sure if it's real or not, raising doubts about their connection once more. Jack wants to know Timothy's thoughts regarding the dinner party, even though he remained silent throughout Tori and Timothy's confrontation. This is because Jack has had time to think about it. In short, Timothy feels precisely the same way. Timothy reiterates, I don't regret anything I said and that's it. But Tori and Jack, not Timothy, are the ones who are writing stay or leave. Both Jack and Tori see longevity in their love. I envision a bright future because I'm positioning us for success. Tori and I are a lucky match, he remarks. Even with their extravagant praise for one another, adorable pet names, and excessive arm grazing, Timothy is deeply skeptical about Tori and Jack. And based on the couple's extremely little round of applause, we can assume that there are a few more atheists in the audience. Timothy and Lucinda. Timothy is not fond of his new role, which has moved him from the observation deck to the hot seat. Timothy's dinner party behavior hasn't impressed Lucinda, who believes Timothy should be humble with his own experience, instead of criticizing Tori and Jack. Furthermore, Lucinda feels somewhat humiliated when she hears that Timothy, 51, dated a 23-year-old in the past. And Lucinda, who is always pretty upbeat, has a lot more grievances to list. Few affections, inability to express emotions, lack of desire for sex, excessive TV watching, and neglecting to brush his teeth before bed are just a few of his traits. We're not sure why everyone glazed over the final one so quickly. Timothy has always been keen to argue with other participants, but he isn't willing to argue now and is limited to agreeing with everything Lucinda says. "I'm a disaster, I've got more baggage than Qantas," he says with a groan. Lucinda wants to unpack that and I don't. I want to leave it in the past and that's just how I get by. However, John emphasizes that the vibrant Lucinda is prepared to get her hands dirty and is the only one who can properly unpack Timothy's belongings. She brightens and says, "Let's bless this mess," which is enough to make Timothy smile. Tim says, "She's very kind, she has a big heart, she thinks of everyone, she loves everyone, and she looks for the positive in people and every situation, but I tend to look for the bad." Though neither of them is prepared to quit up, Lucinda acknowledges that in order to have her writing stick, she will need to see effort and something hunky and spunky from Timothy. Tristan and Cassandra. Although Tristan has found intimacy to be somewhat difficult, Cassandra notes that he's been trying really hard. Who could blame her? She would not mind receiving a couple extra hugs and kisses. In order to perform a small experiment within the experiment, expert Mel Schilling urges the two to embrace on the couch. The two of them find it easy, and Tristan even adds, "I love you." Did you hear that? Cass smiles. Undoubtedly, it was more of a cordial, "I love you," but a statement of love is never a bad thing. Jaden and Eden. For these two, it's short and sweet. Jaden has a major crush on Eden and is head over heels in love with him. They type a stay, and everything turns out well. The conclusion. Richard and Andrea. For Richard and Andrea, Intimacy Week went quite well. It was almost as if they created Intimacy Week. The week prior to Intimacy Week, we conducted Intimacy Week. Richard says, "We gazed, we hugged, we did everything," which hardly leaves much room for interpretation. It's hardly surprising that they're staying another week because the two are closer than ever. Richard's description of what they'll be doing for the next week is quite accurate. Jonathan and Lauren. Lauren and Jonathan were drowning during Intimacy Week, while Richard and Andrea were coasting. Lauren is aware that she hasn't been responding to Jono in a way that he deserves. Lauren realizes that characterizing him as a robotic and a boring is damaging her connection with him. Jono finds it difficult to accept and claims to be a confident man, until Lauren sets him straight. Lauren claims that Jono is the exact type of guy she wants. Despite her previous statements, she is simply self-destructing and doesn't know why. What is wrong with me? Lauren ponders. The two will be around for an additional week in the hopes of learning the answer to that query. Tim and Sara. After 3 canceled dates and a heated argument at the dinner party, Sara apologizes and starts her couch time. "I'm embarrassed that we aired our dirty laundry, so I apologize to everyone for the scene that was caused last night," she tells the audience. Mel Schilling, though, is eager to offer an alternative viewpoint. She informs the bride, "You apologize to the group, but not to Tim." In response, Sara says, "But he yelled at me." "What About Me" by Shannon Knoll is playing softly in the background. Mel attempts to hold up a mirror to Sara, but it has obviously failed the first time. "You were behaving in a really aggressive way throughout the night, you were shouting for a length of time," she continues. "We watched Tim control himself throughout the night until you pushed him to the point that he exploded." Sara is able to discern the viewpoint. She finally tells her husband, "I'm sorry," after hearing Mel's words. All along, Cassandra has been a trailblazer for Tim, and now she asks, "Are you maybe afraid of Sarah, a little bit?" Naturally, Sara finds Cassandra's inquiry offensive and essentially urges her to shut up. Tim states that, the ball is in her court, from this point on. Tim and Sara both want to stay because they want to give it their all. The other brides and grooms urge the couple to hug it out as they decide their fate for the coming week. Although there is still a lot between the two of them to work out, nothing quite like a wedding to rekindle romantic optimism. Fortunately, 3 weddings featuring our newest brides and grooms are scheduled for this coming Monday and Tuesday night. Here's an early glimpse at some of the exciting things that are planned for these outrageous weddings. Please subscribe our channel for more update news.